There are claims that ancient people built structures that even experts today still find difficult to explain. Temples carved out of entire mountains, cities with advanced water systems, and massive stones that seem impossible for people of their time to have moved. The question is, how did they do it? And why do some ancient structures seem way too advanced for their own time? In this video, we'll find out about 10 ancient places that are said to be thousands of years ahead of their time in history. Before we start, please like this video and subscribe. It means a lot to us content creators. Thank you. And now let's begin. MohenjoDaro in Pakistan. MohenjoDaro is part of the so-called ancient Indus Valley civilization in the area that is now Pakistan. According to historians and archaeological studies, this city was built more than 4,000 years ago. And until now, many experts are still amazed at how advanced its design was for their time. The city was not built randomly. The roads are in a grid pattern, but what's underground is even more surprising. Almost every house has a connection to the drainage system. There are canals made of baked brick. Some sewer lines have covers. And there are even inspection openings so the blockages can be cleaned. In other words, they didn't just build a city, they designed a sanitation infrastructure. According to reports from National Geographic and archaeological researchers, there were even some houses that had what could be considered the earliest version of a flush toilet in the ancient world. This wasn't just for decoration, it was really functional. The floor was sloped so water could flow. There were clay pipes connected to the underground drainage. And many households even had wells, at a time when many parts of the world still didn't have an organized sewage system. MohenjoDaro was like a city thousands of years ahead of its time. And it's not just the infrastructure that's a mystery here. Until now, scientists still haven't fully deciphered the script of the Indus Valley civilization. Around 1900 BCE, the major cities of the Indus Valley civilization gradually disappeared. Historians are still not sure what the real reason is. There are theories about climate change, changes in the river, drought, possible economic collapse or population migration, but there is no single answer accepted by everyone. And for thousands of years, MohenjoDaro was just buried under the earth until it was rediscovered in the 20th century. A lost city that was far ahead of its time. The Great Dam of the Marib in Yemen. More than 2,000 years before modern dams were built, there was a kingdom in the Arabian Peninsula that had already created an irrigation system that sustained an entire region. According to historical records and studies by archaeologists, it was built by the so-called ancient kingdom of Saba, or Sheba, a civilization that became wealthy because of the trade of incense, myrrh, and other valuable products along ancient trade routes. The problem in the region back then was water. Rainfall was irregular, the climate was hot, and it was difficult to support large-scale agriculture. So what they did was control the seasonal floodwaters using a massive dam. It wasn't just a simple barrier for water. There were integrated irrigation canals, spillways, flood control mechanisms, and a system to direct water to the agricultural fields. Because of this, vast farmlands were created in the middle of a dry environment. According to historians, the surplus food production from this helped the kingdom of Sheba become wealthy and an important center of free trade in the ancient Middle East. It even has connections to stories in the Hebrew Bible and Quran about the Queen of Sheba. But what's even more impressive is that the dam lasted for over 1,000 years. It was repeatedly repaired and reinforced by different generations. And even though they didn't have modern concrete technology or steel reinforcement, they were able to build a structure that survived the harsh desert conditions for many centuries. Eventually, around the 6th century AD, the dam suffered major damage. According to some Islamic historical sources, the collapse of the irrigation system was a major blow to the region and is even linked to the mass migration of people out of the area. And until now, the Great Dam of Marib remains a reminder that even in the ancient world, there were societies capable of building infrastructure that seemed impossible for their time. Masuda, Iwafune, Japan. In a quiet part of Japan, there lies a gigantic stone that remains a mystery to archaeologists to this day. It's not a famous temple, nor is it a castle, and there is no clear history as to why it was made. This is called Masuda Iwafune. You can find it in the Asuka region, a place that was the center of power in ancient Japan from the 6th to the 8th century. Asuka is known for its ancient tombs, temples, and unusual stone carvings. But among all of those, Masuda Iwafune is one of the weirdest. According to Japanese archaeologists, it doesn't have any exact resemblance to known Buddhist or Shinto structures from that time. It also doesn't match the usual design of tombs or palace foundations in ancient Japan. So until now, it's all just theories. It's possible that they tried to move it before, but it was too heavy, so they just left it on the side of the mountain. The mystery only deepens because nothing is clear yet. Where exactly was this granite taken from? In modern times, we can move huge stones using cranes, hydraulic systems, and heavy equipment. But in ancient Japan, how did they carve it? How did they put it there? And most of all, why is there still no definitive answer? And while thousands of tourists visit the more famous historical sites of Asuka every year, the Masuda Iwafune quietly lies on the side of the hill, like a message once left by the ancient world that we still can't read. Madol, Micronesia. In the middle of the vast Pacific Ocean, there is an ancient city that seems impossible for its time. It wasn't built on a mountain nor on the mainland. It was built directly on top of a coral reef. This is Madol of Micronesia. When you first see it, it doesn't seem man-made. Long seawalls and massive blocks of volcanic stone that are stacked, layered like giant logs. According to UNESCO and archaeological research, this complex is made up of almost 100 small artificial islets connected by canals. That's why it's sometimes called the Venice of the Pacific. But the real question isn't how beautiful it is. The question is, how did they build this? The stones used here are basalt columns. These are heavy volcanic rock formations that are naturally shaped like columns. Some of them are estimated to weigh several tons each. And according to studies, most of the stones did not come from the construction site itself. They had to be brought in from other parts of the island. According to historians, Madol was built by the Sodelur dynasty around the 12th century and became the center of political and religious power in the region for many generations. Its design is also unique. There are canals between the stone structures, elevated walls, and some areas that seem to be exclusive for the ruling elite and religious ceremonies. But until now, there is still no complete answer as to exactly how the extremely heavy stones were transported onto the reef. In the oral traditions of the local culture, there is a story about two siblings with supernatural powers who supposedly made the stones fly to the construction site. Naturally, that is not accepted as a scientific explanation. But even modern researchers admit that it's hard to explain the logistics of the project using only the simple technology of that time. There are theories about bamboo wraps, rollers, and manpower, but there is still no explanation that completely answers all the details. Eventually, the power of the Sodelur dynasty also fell. They left Madol, and little by little, it was swallowed by nature and the sea. In 2016, UNESCO added it to the World Heritage List, but it was also immediately included in the list of endangered sites because of the destruction of the structures and the rising sea levels. And until now, Madol remains one of the most astonishing engineering achievements of the ancient world. A city in the sea that seems to have been built by a civilization far ahead of its time. Now, a temple in India. The Kailasa temple in the Ellora caves, one of the most astonishing engineering achievements of the ancient world. When you see this from above, that's when you'll realize just how insane it is. A massive chunk of rock was excavated downward from the cliffside until the entire temple emerged in the middle. It's like a giant sculptor just removed the excess rock, leaving behind the exact design of the building. There are huge statues. There are detailed carvings of scenes from Hindu mythology. And the most important detail is that everything originated from a single piece of rock. According to historians and archaeological studies, the temple is associated with Rashtrakuta King Krishna I in the 8th century AD. But until now, there is still debate about how long it actually took to build. Some historical estimates say that it could have been completed in less than 20 years, but many engineers doubt this. Because according to their analysis, a huge amount of stone had to be removed to build the entire complex. What's even harder is that a single wrong excavation could destroy the entire structure. If you carve too much in the wrong part, you can't put the stone back. That means they had to think of the final shape of the temple even before they started carving the mountain. That's why even today, many architects and engineers are still amazed at the level of spatial planning required to accomplish this. There are still some who say that even with modern technology, it would still be complicated to repeat the same process in exactly the way it was done before. And it's not just the size that's made Kailasa Temple famous. It's also known for its durability. There are stories that during the time of the Mughal Empire, Emperor Aurangzeb's men allegedly tried to destroy it. But even after years of attempts, the effect was minimal. Whether the whole story is true or not, one thing is clear about the structure. More than 1,000 years have passed. There are artisans and engineers in India who can turn a mountain itself into a masterpiece. The stones of Baalbek, Lebanon. Baalbek is known for its massive Roman temple complex, especially the Temple of Jupiter. But the real mystery lies beneath the temple itself. On its foundation platform, you can find what's called the Trilaton, 3 gigantic limestone blocks placed side by side with incredible precision. Each of those stones is estimated to weigh hundreds of tons. And they're not just laid out, they fit together so precisely that there's almost no gap between them. When you look at it up close, it seems like modern industrial precision was used. According to archaeological evidence, the stones were quarried from the quarry several hundred meters away from the temple complex. This means they still had to move the massive stones across uneven terrain before building the foundation. And that's where the mystery begins. How? There are theories about rollers, ramps, ropes, and manpower. It's possible that a combination of engineering techniques was used, which gradually disappeared over time. But up to now, there is still no universally accepted explanation as to how such massive stones were precisely positioned, using only the technology of the ancient world. The story became even more unusual when even larger stones were discovered in the quarry area. In 2014, according to archaeological reports from German and Lebanese researchers, another massive stone block was found that had not been fully moved. This one is heavier than those in the foundation. It seems like they planned to use an even bigger stone, but it never happened. It's not clear why, but it's possible that it was just too heavy even for them. It's possible that the project changed, or maybe there was a political or economic crisis at that time. There's also a debate about whether the foundation platform is purely a Roman construction, or if an even older civilization started it before the Romans arrived. Up to now, there's still no final answer, but one thing is certain. In the history of engineering, Baalbek is one of the clearest reminders that there were ancient builders capable of creating projects on a scale that's still hard to understand even in modern times. Newgrange, Ireland. At first glance, it just looks like a big hill. But inside that massive mound, there's a long stone passage that leads straight to a chamber in the center. And this is where the surprising part comes in. Every winter solstice, the shortest day of the year in the northern hemisphere, a ray of sunlight enters exactly through a small opening above the entrance. The light passes through the narrow passageway, and it hits the inner chamber directly. This alignment is not random. It's so precise that the exact effect only happens for a few minutes each year. This means that the people who built Newgrange more than 5,000 years ago already had a deep understanding of the movement of the sun and seasonal cycles. According to historians and archaeologists, the winter solstice was possibly important to their beliefs because it symbolized the return of light after the darkest part of the year. But astronomical alignment is not the only reason why Newgrange is special. Even today, its interior chamber remains dry. More than 5,000 years of rain, wind, and the cold climate of Ireland. but the corbelled roof of the structure remained sturdy. No cement, no steel reinforcement. The stones were carefully placed and fitted together so that water would naturally flow out of the structure. It's like ancient waterproof engineering. And as scientists continue to study Newgrange, one thing is clear. This was not built by a simple primitive society. This was a civilization capable of combining astronomy, engineering, and symbolic design in a way that is still impressive even in modern times. Rock-hewn churches of Lalibela, Ethiopia. In the mountains of Ethiopia, there is a place that seems almost not made by human hands. These are the rock-hewn churches of Lalibela. When we say carved, it doesn't just mean the stone was decorated. What it means is that the ground itself was dug downward until the entire church emerged. It's like the opposite of normal construction. Instead of building upwards, they removed a huge portion of the rock until only the exact shape of the buildings was left, all from a single solid rock. According to historical tradition, the churches were built during the time of King Gabriel Meskel Lalibela of the Zagwe dynasty around the 12th to 13th century. It is said that his goal was to create a new Jerusalem in the Ethiopian highlands after it became difficult for Christian pilgrims to travel to the real Jerusalem because of conflicts in the region during that time. That's why many parts of the complex have symbolic connections to the Holy Land. But no matter how important its religious symbolism is, it's really the engineering that fascinates people. When the Portuguese explorers arrived in Ethiopia in the 16th century, there were reports saying that the churches seemed to be built by superhuman hands. There are even local traditions that say angels supposedly helped with the construction at night, after the people worked during the day. Of course, that's part of religious belief and not a scientific explanation. But even if you remove the legend, the reality still remains. It's very difficult to explain how such a massive excavation was carried out with such precision. And what's even more impressive is that Lalibela is not an abandoned ruin. After almost 800 years, this is still an active place of worship. Even today, there are Ethiopian Orthodox worshipers who go down to those stone churches every day to pray. Inside the buildings carved directly from the mountain by their ancestors. In the middle of the forests of Sri Lanka, there is a massive granite rock that suddenly rises from the ground like a natural fortress. It is almost 200 meters high, and on top of that rock there was once a king who built his own palace. This is Sigiriya, one of the most amazing royal complexes of ancient Asia. According to Sri Lankan historical chronicles like the Mahabhamsa, King Kashyapa rose to power after seizing the throne from his own father. Meanwhile, the secret legitimate heir, Moggallana, escaped to India, and Kashyapa knew that one day his brother would return to reclaim the kingdom. So instead of staying in the traditional capital, he chose to turn the massive rock of Sigiriya into a fortress. But this was not just a simple military hideout. He turned it into a highly advanced royal city. At the foot of the rock, they built geometrically planned gardens with canals, pools, and fountains. And this is where the engineering becomes impressive. Even today, it still works. Some of the ancient fountains of Sigiriya during the rainy season. According to archaeologists, the system uses underground water channels and natural pressure from the elevation of the water, just gravity and clever hydraulic design. And this was built more than 1,500 years ago. As you climb up the rock, you can see what used to be a giant lion gateway, a massive structure carved into the rock where visitors would pass through before reaching the summit. Now only the giant lion's feet remain. There is also what's called the mirror wall, a smooth wall that was once so polished that it said the king could see his own reflection as he walked by. And on the side of the rock, there are still fresco paintings of women who look like celestial figures, some of which remain clear even after hundreds of years have passed. But like many ancient kingdoms, Kashyapa's power did not last long either. After the throne was reclaimed, Sigiriya was left as a Buddhist monastery. Chanchanbawi, India. In the desert region of Rajasthan in India, you can find Chanchanbari, one of the most extraordinary stepwells built in the ancient world. When you look from above, you can immediately see the reason why it is famous. Thousands of steps, repeating geometric patterns, and a design that is almost perfectly symmetrical from top to bottom. The entire structure goes down very deep. It was built into the ground to reach the underground water supply in one of the driest parts of India. But its design isn't just practical, the architecture is also ingenious. As you go down the step well, the temperature gradually gets cooler. According to researchers, the bottom is several degrees cooler compared to the surface. In other words, it's like a natural cooling system in the middle of the intense desert heat. And just think about the precision needed to build this. Thousands of steps, uniform measurements, even alignment, and consistent geometry from the surface down to the deepest part. No laser measurement tools, no CAD software, no drones to see the entire design from above. The builders back then were literally digging down while trying to keep the pattern of the entire structure exact. And most strikingly, they couldn't see the full final visual effect while they were building it. You can only see the full geometric symmetry when you're at the edge of the stepwell and standing looking down. A perspective that wasn't available to the workers while they were building the lower levels. That's why even today, many architects and engineers still admire the mathematical precision of Chand Baori. It's been more than 1,200 years since it was properly built. Kingdoms have changed, empires have fallen, but the precision of every placement remains exact, like frozen geometry from the ancient world.